Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment when a woman realizes that the difference between being ignored and being chased isn't luck, timing, or looks. It's 5 simple words that flip the entire dynamic. 5 words that make a man stop in his tracks, rethink his behavior, and suddenly see you as the woman he cannot afford to lose. These aren't magic. They're a mirror of your worth. And the moment you send them, you won't be wondering whether he cares. You'll be watching him chase you like his future depends on it. Let me show you the 5 words that change everything. Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every woman's life when she realizes her power doesn't lie in how much she gives, how much she proves, or how much she bends herself to be chosen. Her power lies in the way she communicates her worth, confidently, effortlessly, and without apology. And sometimes that shift begins with 5 simple words, not magical words, not manipulative words, but words that come from a place of clarity, strength, and self-respect. Words that activate something deep inside a man because they reflect a woman who knows exactly who she is. When you text him these 5 words, you're not casting a spell, you're revealing a standard. You're showing him a glimpse of a woman he cannot take lightly, cannot replace easily, and cannot forget quickly. These words don't pull him in because they trick him, they pull him in because they challenge him to rise to the level of someone extraordinary. And the moment he feels that shift, everything changes. You see, most women today feel pressured to impress through overcommunication. Long paragraphs, constant reassurance, proving you're interested, proving you're loyal, proving you're worth the effort. But attraction doesn't grow from proving. It grows from presence. It grows from a quiet confidence wrapped in simplicity. And that's exactly why these 5 words have such power. They create curiosity, but not the needy kind. Curiosity built on mystery, boundaries, and emotional intelligence. The truth is, men chase what they feel they could lose if they don't step up. They chase what feels valuable, what feels rare, what feels like it adds something meaningful to their life instead of draining it. When you send these words, you're not just creating a moment. You're creating a dynamic. You're sending a signal that says, I'm here, but I'm not waiting around. I'm interested, but I'm not dependent. I'm open, but I'm not without standards. And when a man feels that, instinct kicks in. Now, before we get to the 5 words themselves, you need to understand the energy behind them. Because without the right energy, words are just letters on a screen. The energy is everything. It's the difference between a message that inspires pursuit and a message that gets ignored. The energy is this: calm certainty. You are not asking for permission to be valued. You're stating a fact that you already are. When you operate from that place, anything you say naturally carries weight. These 5 words work because they shift the dynamic away from chasing him and toward inviting him to show you how much he values you. They subtly remind him that attraction is a 2-way street, that his effort matters, that you're not going to be the one carrying the whole connection. They nudge him towards stepping into his best self, toward showing up, toward giving you the kind of attention that's consistent, intentional, and real. And men don't chase to impress. They chase because it feels purposeful, because it feels good, because it feels like they're moving towards something inspiring. The words are simple, but their impact is profound. Let me. And you fill in the blank with something that shows you're not waiting, you're not clinging, and you're not putting your life on pause. Maybe it's free. Maybe it's serious. Maybe it's ready to talk. The phrase itself tells him you have a world beyond him, a world he wants to be invited into. It tells him the door is open, but not wide open. It tells him he has a place, but not a guaranteed one. It tells him you're available, but not always. And that right there creates pursuit. Because a man doesn't chase a woman who is always there. He chases the woman who gives access with intention. He chases the woman who sends signals that show interest but not dependence. He chases the woman who can walk away with grace if she's not treated right. These 5 words ignite that spark in him because they come from a woman who isn't trying to control the pace or force the connection. She simply sets the tone and lets him rise to meet it. Imagine him reading your message. He pauses. It hits differently than anything else he's seen. It doesn't overflow with emotion, it doesn't demand an explanation, and it doesn't come from frustration. It's calm, it's controlled, it's confident. He immediately feels the shift. Suddenly, he's aware that your time is valuable. Suddenly, he's aware that effort will be required. Suddenly, he realizes that this connection isn't something he can just drift in and out of. If he wants you, he must show it. If he cares, he must prove it, not with words, but with action. This is where the chase begins, not the childish chase of games, but the mature chase of intention. The chase where he leans forward instead of leaning back, where he initiates instead of hesitating, where he plans instead of passively responding, where he starts investing emotionally, mentally, and physically because he feels that being with you is a privilege, not a consolation prize. And the best part, you're not pretending, you're not manipulating, you're not sending these words as a trick. You're sending them because you actually live by them. You actually have a life that doesn't pause for anyone. You actually have standards that don't bend under pressure. You actually respect yourself enough to communicate with clarity instead of chaos. The more real this is for you, the stronger the effect becomes. When you communicate like this, you show him that you're the kind of woman who values her peace more than attention, the kind of woman who values effort more than excuses, the kind of woman who values consistency more than chemistry, the kind of woman who knows that if someone is truly interested, you won't have to beg for clarity. You'll receive it effortlessly. And that realization is what makes him lean in. Because men don't chase unpredictability, they chase inspiration. These 5 words inspire him to see you differently, to prioritize you, to show you that he's serious, to step into the role of someone who adds value to your life instead of confusion, because you are no longer the woman who sends double texts hoping for reassurance. You are the woman who sends 5 words that express everything without saying too much. You are the woman who commands respect through simplicity. You are the woman who understands that attraction is not built in how much you try, it's built in how much you trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you no longer fear losing him. You fear losing your own standards. You no longer chase validation. You create it from within. You no longer try to convince someone to stay. You allow the HT ones to come closer and the wrong ones to fade away. And the moment that energy shifts inside you, the chase becomes natural. Not because you're hard to get, but because you're hard to forget. So text him these 5 words. Not to manipulate him, not to test him, but to remind yourself of the woman you are, the woman who knows her value, the woman who communicates with purpose, the woman who invites effort instead of demanding it, the woman who doesn't compete for attention, she commands it, the woman who doesn't fear being alone, she fears settling for less than she deserves. These 5 words aren't just a message, they're a mirror reflecting your worth back to you. And when he sees that worth, clearly, powerfully, unmistakably, he won't just respond. He'll pursue, he'll chase, he'll try. Because a woman who speaks with this level of confidence becomes unforgettable, unstoppable, and undeniably magnetic. And when he feels that magnetic pull toward you, it isn't because you begged for it or tried to manufacture it. It's because something inside him recognizes that you are not a woman he can drift around casually. You are a woman who requires presence. A woman who requires effort. A woman who awakens a deeper kind of desire, the kind that makes a man want to show up consistently, not just occasionally. Because you've given him a signal, through those 5 words, that if he wants you in his life, there is a standard of communication, a level of energy, and a degree of effort that must accompany that desire. What makes these words so powerful is the way they anchor you in emotional independence. You are not clinging to him for validation. You are not depending on his response to determine your self-worth. You are not pouring your identity into whether he replies quickly or slowly. Instead, you are grounded, rooted, steady. You know who you are. You know what you deserve. And he feels that. That's why he chases. Not because you're distant, but because you're centered. Men feel drawn to women who are connected to their own lives. Women who don't place their entire emotional world into the hands of one man, one message, one moment. When you say, "Let me know when you're," followed by whatever reflects your boundary. You're signaling that you are not a woman who waits in emotional limbo. You move, you live, you grow. You invest in things outside the connection. And ironically, that's what makes the connection more meaningful for him, because he knows your attention is genuine, not desperate. He knows your interest is a choice, not a dependency. He knows that if he wants to be part of your life, he must bring something valuable to the table. And when a man feels like he has something to live up to, something to rise toward, something to protect, something to earn, then the chase becomes instinctive. These 5 words shift the dynamic from pressure to purpose. Instead of asking, "What are we?" Instead of explaining your feelings in long essays that overwhelm him. Instead of questioning why he's distant, why he takes long to reply, why he doesn't initiate as much as he used to. Instead of spiraling in confusion and trying to decode him, you simply send a message that reflects your truth and gives him the freedom to show you where he stands. And here's the most beautiful part. You're not demanding clarity. You're allowing space for it. You're giving I'm the room to choose, to step up, to align his actions with his words, or not. But either way, you're not trying to force the outcome. You're not chasing after potential. You're listening to reality as it reveals itself. When he reads those words, he feels the weight of choice. Either he steps into the version of himself that is ready, consistent, attentive, and honest, or he steps away. And if he steps away, it's not a loss. It's a revelation. It shows you who is capable of matching the woman you're becoming, because the woman who sends those 5 words is not afraid of losing someone who isn't ready. She is far more afraid of losing herself in someone who doesn't know her worth. And that energy, calm, centered, self-assured, makes her unforgettable. Think about how most people communicate today. Messages flooded with anxiety. Questions fueled by insecurity, overthinking disguised as affection. But when you communicate with clarity, short, simple, powerful, you stand out. You're not lost in the noise of emotional chaos. You're not asking him to manage your emotions. You're simply expressing your boundary in a way that is confident, elegant, and emotionally mature. And emotional maturity is magnetic. He feels it. He senses it. He becomes drawn to it because it makes him feel like the connection has purpose. Not pressure, not confusion, not chaos. Purpose. He begins to realize that if he wants access to you, he must respect your time. He must show consistency. He must follow through on his words. He must create space for the connection, not just stumble into it whenever it's convenient. And as he begins to understand this, something powerful happens inside him. He starts valuing you more deeply. Men value what they invest in. When he begins to chase you, when he begins to show up, when he begins to put in effort, he forms a deeper emotional bond. Not because you manipulated him, but because he willingly stepped forward. And when a man chooses to step forward on his own, the connection becomes real. He starts thinking about you more. He starts planning more intentionally. He starts wanting to see you more often. He starts paying closer attention to the details of your life. He starts asking deeper questions. He starts wanting to be someone who adds to your happiness, not disrupts it. All of this begins with one simple, confident moment. A moment where you take back your power. A moment where you communicate not from fear, but from self-respect. A moment where you let go of trying to control the outcome and instead lean into your own truth. Because attraction that lasts is not built on strategy. It's built on self-value. And the more you value yourself, the easier it becomes to communicate in a way that inspires a man to rise. Not because you're forcing him, but because he wants to. Not because you demand it, but because your energy naturally invites it. This is the strength behind those 5 words. They are not weapons. They are boundaries. They are not manipulation. They are clarity. They are not games. They are standards. And the moment you embody that, everything changes. You begin to speak differently. You begin to walk differently. You begin to move differently. You begin to attract differently, because the way you carry yourself becomes a reflection of the love you have for yourself. And that kind of energy transforms every connection you enter. You stop trying to be chosen. You start choosing. You stop trying to be understood by someone who shows you inconsistency. You start aligning with the ones who match your emotional frequency. You stop waiting anxiously for a message. You start responding from a place of calm expectation. You stop chasing closure. You start recognizing detachment as clarity. And from that place of strength, those 5 words become a powerful filter, a way of revealing the truth about the connection, a way of allowing the right man to step forward and the wrong one to step aside. Because the man who is meant to be in your life will respond with effort. He will respond with clarity. He will respond with intention. He will respond in a way that shows you that you matter, not as an option, not as a convenience, but as a priority. He will chase you because he recognizes your value, not because you demanded to be pursued. He will chase you because he sees your confidence, not because you withheld affection. He will chase you because he feels better when he's close to you than when he's distant. He will chase you because your energy elevates him. He will chase you because loving you feels like purpose, not pressure. And even more importantly, you'll feel the difference. You'll feel the shift in how he communicates. You'll feel the consistency in his presence. You'll feel the effort in his actions. You'll feel the intention behind his words. You'll feel the steady rhythm of a man who wants to be there truly, deeply, wholeheartedly. Because when a woman stands in her worth, she doesn't chase love. She attracts devotion. She inspires commitment. She elevates the emotional standard. She sets the tone for the connection to thrive. And the right man will not only feel the difference, he will rise to meet it. And as he rises to meet that standard, something shifts not only in him, but in the entire dynamic between you. Because when a man feels he is stepping into a connection with a woman who knows her worth, he shows up with a different kind of energy. There's more intentionality in the way he speaks to you, more consistency in the way he interacts with you, more presence in the way he shows he cares. He no longer drifts in and out as if your time is elastic, as if your attention is guaranteed, as if your presence is something he can take for granted. Instead, he becomes more aware, more thoughtful, more deliberate, because he now senses what he stands to gain and what he stands to lose. This is where those 5 words become a catalyst for transformation, not just in him, but in you. Because every time you communicate with clarity instead of fear, you reinforce your own sense of worth. You begin to build a deeper relationship with yourself, one that is rooted in dignity, confidence, and emotional security. You stop allowing someone's inconsistency to determine your mood. You stop letting someone's silence dictate your value. You stop entertaining the version of yourself that bends just to be chosen, and instead you step into the version of yourself that chooses who is worthy of your time, your energy, and your heart. You begin to notice how differently you feel when you stop chasing, when you stop explaining, when you stop overinvesting. You start recognizing the peace that comes from letting people show you who they truly are. You start realizing that love doesn't require you to abandon yourself. It requires you to anchor yourself. And from that place, your communication becomes cleaner, stronger, more intentional. Those 5 words represent a boundary disguised as simplicity. But boundaries are powerful. They protect your peace, they clarify your expectations, they make room for the right person, and they filter out the wrong one. Because Yon who is right for you will respect your boundaries. They will appreciate your clarity. They will feel relieved, not pressured, by the fact that you communicate honestly and directly. They won't withdraw from the standard. You'll inspire them to meet it. And what's even more beautiful is that these 5 words also reveal your emotional stability. They show him that you're not reactive. You're not impulsively texting out of insecurity. You're not trying to force a connection or demand instant attention. Instead, you're giving space. You're giving time. You're giving room for things to unfold naturally. And emotional stability is one of the most attractive traits a woman can have. It creates safety, it creates trust, it creates warmth. A man feels more confident stepping forward when he senses that you're grounded rather than anxious. This is why he begins to chase you, not because he feels controlled, but because he feels inspired. Inspired to be better, inspired to give more, inspired to show up fully, inspired to rise to the standard you've set simply by being who you are. When you operate from this level of self-respect, you begin to connect with people differently. You're no trying to decode mixed signals. You simply acknowledge them and act accordingly. You're not trying to convince someone to treat you right. You give them space to show you whether they will. You're not trying to hold on to someone who isn't giving you clarity. You step back and let them decide if they want to step forward. It's this shift from reaction to response, from chasing to choosing, that makes you irresistible. Irresistible not because you're playing hard to get, but because you're genuinely hard to replace. He feels that your presence adds value to his life. He feels that conversations with you give him something meaningful. He feels that being around you makes him want to show up in a way he hasn't felt compelled to before. The right man doesn't chase because you're unavailable. He chases because you're authentic. He chases because you're consistent with yourself. He chases because you communicate honestly without being demanding. He chases because you invite effort instead of forcing it. He chases because your energy draws him in without trapping him. And that's the magic of these 5 words. They create an emotional environment where he feels both the freedom to choose and the motivation to pursue. They ignite curiosity within him. They make him wonder about you in a deeper way. They give him a sense of direction. They send a message that says, I'm not going to assume anything. I'm not going to chase you. I'm not going to pressure you. But if you want this, show me. That's when he starts planning ahead instead of responding last minute. That's when he starts asking about your day with more intention. That's when he starts offering solutions instead of excuses. That's when he starts wanting to be a stable presence in your life instead of a temporary distraction. Because every man on some level wants to feel that he is adding value to the life of the woman he cares about. And when he knows that your attention is meaningful, that your interest is sincere, that your standards are real, and that your presence is not to be wasted, he rises. He becomes more deliberate. He becomes more consistent. He becomes more serious about what he wants with you. And the woman who communicates like this experiences something extraordinary. She stops fearing losing someone who isn't right. She stops accepting half efforts. She stops interpreting silence as mystery and starts seeing it as clarity. She stops negotiating with her instincts. She stops chasing emotional crumbs, pretending they are devotion. Instead, she starts honoring her needs. She starts listening to her intuition. She starts trusting her boundaries. She starts valuing her emotional space. She starts recognizing the men who step forward with effort and the ones who fall back into inconsistency. And the more she honors herself, the less she entertains anything that diminishes her worth. This version of you becomes a force, a woman whose presence demands respect without ever needing to raise her voice, a woman who inspires more than she requests, a woman whose energy communicates more than she ever needs to explain, a woman who understands that she doesn't need to fight for attention. She just needs to stand in her truth and let the right man prove himself through action. And when he feels the shift, his behavior follows. He becomes more aware of the weight of his choices. He becomes more mindful of how he communicates. He becomes more conscious of how his actions reflect his intentions. He begins to realize that he cannot simply show up when it's convenient. He must show up consistently if he wants to walk beside a woman like you, because you're no longer playing the role of the woman who waits anxiously, doubts deeply, or hopes desperately. You're stepping into the role of the woman who knows her value before anyone else validates it. You're becoming the woman who isn't afraid of losing someone, who doesn't recognize what she brings into a connection. You're becoming the woman who radiates a kind of confidence that quietly says, if you want me, show me. If you don't, I'll be perfectly fine. And that level of emotional security, that level of self-awareness, that level of inner strength becomes the reason he cannot help but chase you. Because you've shifted the dynamic not through manipulation, but through alignment. Not through distance, but through dignity. Not through games, but through genuine self-respect. So when you send those 5 words, you are not just communicating with him. You are communicating with yourself. You are reminding yourself, Hat, you deserve clarity, not confusion. You deserve effort, not excuses. You deserve consistency, not chaos. You deserve a connection that grows, not one that drains you. And as you stand in that truth, the right man will chase you not because he is afraid to lose you, but because being close to you makes him feel like he has found something rare, something valuable, something extraordinary, something worth pursuing with his whole heart.